Good afternoon. People here talk very easily and quite often about the First Amendment. It is a subject that comes up in conversation regularly, and it seems that just about everyone considers themselves to be an expert on the First Amendment, or at least feels very confident discussing it. And it turns out they don't know the rest of the Constitution, and they don't know that the First Amendment, yes, the First Amendment, it gives you the right to protest. It gives you the right to formally petition the government or the state, and it gives you the right to freely express your own opinions. But what those so-called experts often tend to overlook or simply forget is the important fact that the First Amendment is actually conditioned by just one single word. That word is called peaceably, or without violence. What does this mean? That you can demand whatever you want, you can protest whatever you want, and you can voice whatever opinion you want, but without violence. If this condition exists, if violence leads to the occurrence of the protest, or if in the protest there is violence and intimidation, including, for example, anything that violates the right of another citizen, because now I'm going to give you a classic example. I do not personally share the ideology for which people are protesting, and I want to make that clear. So you really have no right at all to block the road, the path that I rely on, whether I am heading to work, coming back home, or just running any kind of errand. Gee, this road is important to my daily routine. So it must be clear that when you exercise a right, you cannot in any way limit the right of another citizen, because then this would be chaos. In other words, your rights end where another person's rights begin. If everyone started ignoring this basic rule, society would quickly become disordered and unmanageable. That is why it is so important to always respect the rights of others while enjoying your own freedoms. It's get out of the way so I can take your place. I would like to make this clarification, and at the same time, I want to add that those who are most responsible for the violence that is currently being generated in those protests are the governors, the mayors, the elected leaders, or the main leaders of the Democratic Party, who are turning a blind eye to all these protests, because now you are seeing the consequences. You are seeing a series of incidents that have caused the death of citizens of this country. Let me clarify that these citizens were simply in the wrong place, because to protest, to truly protest, to stand up and assert your rights, here there are established laws. There is a constitution, and there are people who are officially licensed to help you assert your rights against the government or against the state. Who are the people who actually have the proper license, who have spent many years carefully studying the law of this country, and who are truly the only people who can intervene in these particular cases? Not you directly, because you personally do not have a license to be involved in a protest demanding from federal authorities that they can't, or that they can, or that they shouldn't do such a thing. That is not your role, sir. You as a citizen, if you disagree with something, organize your protest peacefully. Don't forget that word. Because everything that is not peaceful, any protest, no matter how just it is, if it's not peaceful, is violating the law itself. It's violating the law itself. You are committing a crime. You are bypassing the Constitution. Plain and simple, there is no discussion. I didn't make that up. That's not because I'm a supporter of ideology A or ideology B, or that I have any particular preference for one side or the other. That is simply the written law, and it is very clear. It's there. Look it up. Don't be ignorant. So don't try to force things. Because now at this very moment, I, as a concerned and responsible citizen, am demanding with a sense of urgency and justice that those tragic deaths and that terrible violence that has been generated, the ones who truly have to pay for it are the actual authors, those individuals who encourage, incite, and promote those protests. Because the other part, the interesting and curious part of these protests is that they are not at all spontaneous, but rather they are organized and orchestrated. They are not spontaneous. They are organized, and well funded to create chaos and disorder. And do not forget, please, that you as a citizen are taking undue liberties because you have absolutely no authority at all. You have no license at all to go against an undercover operation, an operation that is being carried out, that the authorized federal or state bodies of this country are carrying out. Or is it that we've lost our minds? We're crazy. We're imbecile. We've become stupid. Because that's what comes to mind. You cannot defend any right by force, sir. You cannot. How do I explain to you that you cannot go to a protest with a weapon? Yes, you have the right to buy the weapon and you have the right to carry it. That is another amendment of the Constitution, but it has its limits. You cannot walk around with the weapon or display it where the law does not allow it. You cannot take it where the law does not allow it. So in a violent riot that you already know about, because it's not that the violence was generated while you were there and it surprised you, but rather that you already know there is violence and you arm yourself to go to where the violence is. So unfortunately, you are walking a tightrope from one building to another that is 45 stories high, and you are doing it repeatedly every day, 365 days a year. So, most likely at some point, one day, you will eventually fall off the rope between those two 45-story buildings, and you'll be a pancake when you hit the ground. So, what do you expect? To go to a riot where justice is being illegally obstructed, you have to look at all the different paths, all the possible routes you might have to travel, all the obstacles you might face in order to get there and play the role of Robin Hood, to stand up and defend someone you do not even know personally, simply because you are standing in solidarity with the ideology, the beliefs, and the protest that you share in common with others. This is a protest, gentlemen, a protest that is, in fact, illegal. Yes, illegal because there is an implicit threat of violence, an underlying sense of potential violence in that protest. And that is something we cannot ignore. So do not justify the unjustifiable. Do not justify it because there is no probable justification in this. So now there are consequences for all those law violations being committed there. And I repeat, and to finish, those most responsible for this are the governors, the authorities who are allowing it. They are being permissive and are essentially allowing a federal authority to be obstructed in the process of their work. Because they are not there for nothing. They are there because an imbecile president in this country opened the border with the idea of causing harm, opened the border for an established, thought-out agenda. Okay? It's not because people snuck in and decided to without anyone in the government knowing. No, the government opened the border so that illegal people would enter the country. So now the remedy that exists is what is being done. Because the president was voted in, whether you like it or not, or if he rubs you the wrong way. That's not my problem. My problem is that I'm following the law. I respected 8 years and a president who was opposed to my ideology, President Barack Hussein Obama. And I respected that presidency for those 8 years. I just had to suck it up and deal with it. So now you, who seems to think the Constitution was made just for you leftists, the communists, the Constitution is for you. Not me. I have to suck it up, and I have to endure all this mess of chaos and things they're doing in this country, the sabotages, to make the country even worse for me, because Donald Trump in 4 years will go play golf at Mar-a-Lago. And I'll be left with the terrible, shitty country you've created and put in that state. So that cannot be allowed. And I say this to my fellow citizens, to the people who think like me, or to those who think with common sense. This is not about ideology. The same rope you're using to hang, they're going to take it to execute you, to hang you too, because you're creating an abnormal precedent. You're throwing overboard the most perfect constitution that exists today in the world. whether it hurts or not, to the communists in Cuba, to the pundits, to the idiots who talk shit out there. This Constitution that is in this country, whether it hurts or not, the Constitution of the Empire is the best. The best there is in this world now. Maybe they'll invent a new one, which will be better than this one. But so far, the best Constitution, the one that best represents the rights of the citizen, of the individual, the one that has borne fruit, because this country is great because of order and the rule of law, not because of the mess and the shit that communism and socialism have brought. I'm fed up to the back teeth that there are people so stupid who haven't lived in a communist country and start giving you classes or lectures on socialism. It's really unbelievable, brother. Honestly, it's just so unbelievable. Well then, damn, how long is this actually going to last? I mean, seriously, it just feels like it's never going to end. I don't know, what do they want? To make this bad. Is that what you want? To make this bad. To then say, oh, look, the violence. Ah, look that. Then sit down to criticize later. No, you're just looking for trouble. And you keep pushing it until it finally breaks. But what pisses me off the most is that they're doing it on purpose. And the useful idiots are following the Pied Piper of Hamelin to the tune of the flute. So, folks, open your eyes. Open your eyes, because they're making things bad, and the leftists are the ones making things bad. The leftists who are working on behalf of many foreign powers, who are crazy, just crazy for this country to fail. Something that's going to be hard, because thank God many people are opening their eyes. And they're seeing where the shots are coming from and where the malice is coming from. So, greetings, excuse the rant, but those who understood, understood.